And the president's got a lot on his plate today, not just North Korea. Let's put up the president's schedule today so you can get an idea of who he is meeting with. First of all, he meets with Ashraf Ghani, who is the president of Afghanistan. After that, it's Petro Poroshenko, who's the president of the Ukraine. The president will have an opportunity here to talk about this idea of sovereignty. And it's not just sort of protecting borders from the outside or from the inside, but also protecting borders from the outside. The president has been criticized for not necessarily being very strong on the idea of Ukrainian sovereignty, what with the invasion of Crimea and all that. So he's going to make the point to Poroshenko that he stands with Ukraine. He'll also meet with Moon Jae-in, the president of South Korea. Abe, you mentioned that, from Japan. And then he's got Erdogan from Turkey later on this afternoon. All of those are open to the press pool, so we expect we'll hear a lot from the president today. You mentioned the Iran nuclear deal. The president said he's made a decision, but according to the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, who spoke with us last night, he was asked about his decision by the UK Prime Minister Theresa May, and the president wasn't saying. So we're going to have to wait and see what the president has decided about the Iran nuclear deal. I'm told that it's very difficult to get out of this, so it may be the idea of putting more pressure on Iran from the outside unilaterally regarding its bad behavior in supporting terrorism and rogue regimes. And then on North Korea, we heard from the vice president this morning that the president is really leaning on Xi Jinping of China, Shannon, to do more to rein in North Korea. The message that he gave to the UN the other day really was, you got to get tough on North Korea because I'm laying out in very stark terms what the potential consequences are. So it's up to you folks.
Yeah, and interesting that the Chinese leader was not here at the UN, also skipping out Russia's President Putin. So key players in this whole conversation not here for face-to-face with the president.
But we should point out, though, that the first day here, the president did talk with Xi Jinping on the telephone. So even though he wasn't actually here to address the United Nations, he was very much in the president's play.
Lengthy conversation. Now, also here domestically, the White House pressing really hard on this final attempt, it looks like, for the GOP at repeal and replace.
Yeah, a couple of big things in the president's plate in the next 6 or 7 days or so. Graham Cassidy, which the president really wants to see passed because he thinks that Obamacare really is a burden to so many Americans, also wants to get the tax money out so that he can apply that to tax reform. Here's what the president said about that yesterday in a pool availability with the president of Egypt. Listen here.
I think there's tremendous support for it. I think it's actually much better than the previous shot, which was very sadly let down. I thought that when I won, I would go to the Oval Office, sit down at my desk, and there would be a health care bill on my desk, to be honest. And it hasn't worked out that way, and I think a lot of Republicans are embarrassed by it.
And the other thing on the president's radar screen, Shannon, and this has really kind of flown below the radar for most of us, is that 87 days ago, the Supreme Court established a 90-day review period on the president's travel ban. The deadline for that comes up on Sunday, so the president has to make a decision on what to do. He could do a number of things. He could just ask for a delay while he makes a decision. He could leave the travel ban in place. He could lift restrictions on some nations. He's got a report from DHS on all of that. The vice president talked about that a short time ago, saying in light of what happened in Britain recently and those refugees, it's more important than ever to make sure we know who's coming into the country. Listen here.
It's publicly been reported that those were individuals who had come into England through a refugee program. And it just simply underscores the strong leadership that President Trump has provided. We have to continue, and we will continue, to make sure that anyone coming into the United States of America does not represent a threat to our communities and our families.
Something we'll keep watching because the president's got to do something by Sunday.